Hi, welcome back to the Sunshine M's podcast. My name is Emily and I am your host. This podcast is for people who feel like they're starting over or they have no idea what they're going to do next, or even just for people who want to find more joy and balance in their life. For those who don't know, I do have a mini series that is every Tuesday that gives you guys a space to tell me your stories, ask questions, give me some comments, concerns, and share your small wins with me so I can share them with everyone else. If you're interested in that, down below is a link to the form to share your story. Now, let's get into the topic of today's episode, which is outgrowing friendships. Bum, bum, bum. Yeah, it's going to be a hard one. I have moved around for as long as I could remember. And so with that, friendships have been a really hard topic for me. I've always wanted best friends, and I feel like I didn't really experience that until about middle school, high school, and college, and now. I always felt left out or ganged up on or picked on. And so for me, those are the kind of heartbreaks that I've had throughout my life. Are not romantic. No, they are friendship heartbreaks. I've had some major friend group falling outs and heartbreaks, and I can touch on those briefly, but I wanted to talk about the small ones, the small friendship breakups where they're not so much big blowout drama, intense betrayal. They are just what they are, growing apart. Outgrowing relationships is so normal. And with that, you can find yourself outgrowing friendships. I, for one, pride myself on being a good friend. I have, like, some of my longest best friends are from middle school and high school, and as far away from me as thousands of miles away. So I have definitely experienced outgrowing friendships. And that's a heartbreak that we don't really talk about a lot, is when a friendship grows apart and you outgrow each other. Like, there's a different kind of grief there because you can't blame anyone for how it happened or what happened. It just happened. Sometimes you grow and they didn't. Sometimes you grow in completely opposite directions. And then all of a sudden, nothing clicks. Your values don't align. Your morals don't align. The way you live life just doesn't align. And sometimes it's important to let those friendships go. On the other hand, there is a moment in time where it's okay to fight for your friendship when you feel that gap that is starting to form between you. I personally have a friendship that it felt really weird and tense, and we were feeling the distance growing and growing. And instead of just letting it die, because that would be easy, we kind of bared our souls. Doing the hard thing is being vulnerable and fighting for a friendship. And if both people are willing to fight for your friendship and work on the gap that is forming, fantastic. That's ideal. But if it's one sided and you're fighting for it or they're fighting for it and then the other person isn't, that is a dead friendship. There's no fixing that when one person doesn't want to continue it. And of course, that's hard. That's upsetting. That's heartbreaking. But like I said, sometimes it's more important to let go than to hold on to what was. Some people stay out of history, stay out of loyalty of, well, they were there for me. You don't owe people your effort to fight for a friendship if it's one-sided. And of course, there are people that are going through things constantly. We all go through different things at different times. I'm not saying if you feel a distance growing between you and your friend, you should abandon them because they're going through something. Obviously, there's There's grace there, and you decide whether or not it's worth fighting for or not. But sometimes it's just growing apart and not recognizing the bond that was there anymore. Because outgrowing friendships can be so subtle, but you don't even notice that you're outgrowing them until it's too late and you don't know them anymore. It can be, it could kind of look like forced conversations, shrinking yourself to avoid judgment, feeling more drained than when you went into when you went into the conversation, and just realizing like you're not the same version of yourself you were, and you don't like the version that they are. And they might not like the version that you're becoming either. And like I said, change and growth obviously changes you. You set new boundaries. You start thinking differently. You observe the world around you differently. There are certain things that you were okay with in your past that you're not okay with now. And you start choosing peace over the chaos of certain friendships. I know I have. When it was too much to fight for, and you realized, like, I'm the only one fighting for this. If you want distance, if you want to step back, I don't think that I'm going to be completely lost because it wasn't like you were there anyway. We are different people and we moved in different directions. And I don't care for the way I'm being treated. So I'm going to take a step back. Some people were friends with you during a time where you allowed more. You allowed behavior that you don't allow anymore. And because of that, that's the friend they know. They know you as a person who maybe let people walk all over them, or maybe would allow them to break their promises, or maybe, you know, give so much grace that it put everyone else before yourself. And maybe because they're used to that, that's what they thought the friendship would continue as. But if you start being friends in a place where you are going through it and then you're healing and growing, there needs to be space in the friendship to grow and heal. Like, I became friends with a lot of, honestly, all of my best friends. I became friends with them when I was in a low place, but they allowed me to become the person I am. One of my closest, bestest friends I've had since middle school. And when we met, I let everyone walk all over me. I was getting bullied constantly, and I didn't stand up for myself ever. I'm not that person anymore. And so she gives me the space to stand up for myself. And what's great is our friendship has adapted from when we were in middle school. We've given each other space to grow and change into healthy, beautiful versions of ourselves. That being said, sometimes you grow and the other person doesn't. And it's okay to want to wait and see if they'll grow too. There's nothing wrong with that. If you value your friendship and you're like, no, I'm waiting for them to also grow in a healthy way, that's great. And I love that for you. Just know sometimes the other person is adamant that they are not going to change. And they start treating you poorly, and you ask to not be treated that way. And they, because they are used to the friendship you had, are not willing to listen to your new boundaries or requests from them. That might be a sign to let the friendship go how it seems to be going. I've had many friends who I saw the way that they were treating me and others, and I said something. And it was super uncomfortable for everyone involved. I even try to give grace and be like, I love you and I'm here for you and I understand that you were going through some things, but I would like this out of a friendship. And if you ever get to a point where you want to have that kind of friendship, let me know. But I can't sit here while you abandon me, demolish me, treat me poorly, talk badly about me, not accept my feelings, not try to understand, and then turn around and tell everyone that knows me, you hate me, or you hate the things that I'm doing, or you think I'm too much. I don't want to be in that friendship because I'm an adult. And if there's a problem, I would prefer you talk about it. The thing with friendships is sometimes space is needed and sometimes it works. You don't have to talk every single day. There is a understanding and a support there that outlasts all of the time and the distance. But there is where you're like, okay, you don't care about who I am, even when we are talking. Maybe it's time for me to really assess the way you're treating me and change my expectations or change the way that I value this relationship because it's clear I'm not being valued. It's okay to stand up for yourself. It's okay to be like, hey, this bothered me. And I obviously love you and I care about you. It really hurt me. And I realized I was holding it against you. It's okay to communicate that. In healthy friendships, you should be able to communicate how you're feeling. Whether they react in a healthy way or not is one thing, but you should be allowed to communicate. That's the bare minimum of a friendship is communication. But obviously when friendships change and morph, you sit and think like, am I a bad friend? Am I a bad person for standing up for myself and taking a step back from a friendship that is hurting me? Like, am I abandoning them? Should I be trying harder? Should I be fighting harder for this friendship? If you're the only one fighting for the friendship, there's not much more you can do. So give yourself grace on the fact that like there are two people in a friendship and in a relationship. And if you're the only one fighting to make changes so that you can get to a healthy place where there's room for both of you to grow, that doesn't mean you have to be putting in more work. You've done everything you've needed to do. You've communicated, you've asked for better, you're giving options of how you can be better, you're trying to compromise. Literally, there is nothing else that you can do but to wait and hope that they do those things. Sometimes they do, sometimes they don't. And then the gap just keeps getting bigger. It doesn't have to be I'm going to block them on everything kind of reaction when the gap gets bigger. Sometimes it's like I'll message them on their birthday because I did care about them and I do care about them. But I'm not going to bend over backwards for them anymore. I think the most important thing is that not every friendship is meant to grow with you. You know, they say some people are in your life for a season or for a reason or forever, right? And sometimes they really are there as a lesson on just about anything. You know, I've had past friends who taught me that I had no standards, or, you know, past friends that taught me that I deserve to be treated better. I've had past friends teach me that my expectations of the world and what am capable of doing are too low. They're non existent. I need to step up my game. Every lesson doesn't have to be a heartbreaking one. And sometimes they're meant to show you what you're capable of. Sometimes friendships are meant to show you of like things you don't want anymore as you've grown or things you really want in a person, even if it's not meant to be with the friendship, like in a friendship with them. And letting go doesn't make you a bad person. It doesn't. Staying in a place where you do not feel seen or supported is not conducive to growth. It's not aligning with supporting yourself. When you do that in a way, you are betraying yourself and abandoning yourself, your boundaries, things that you need does not mean that leaving means you're not loyal. Let me say that part again. Abandoning yourself and your needs and your morals so that you could be a good friend is not good. Leaving that does not mean you're not loyal. At the end of the day, you need to be loyal to yourself. If you're not standing up for yourself and they're not standing up for you, you are abandoning yourself. That is a betrayal to yourself. Y'all need to think on that. I know I did. And that doesn't mean you have to cut people off like dramatically and block them on everything and, you know, talk all this shit on the internet. It doesn't have to be a loud explosion and war. Sometimes it's quiet and you just let it drift. Sometimes it's creating distance and choosing not to share as much, choosing not to reach out as often, not sending them memes and just letting the connection shift into where it naturally is sitting. Sometimes it means like not forcing a connection to be there anymore. And yeah, sometimes you have to have hard conversations about it. Sometimes you just let it drift. And if the other person isn't even cognizant, maybe a conversation gets brought up at the end or not. Sometimes it doesn't. Sometimes it just fades and you realize that like they can be important to you and not be your best friend anymore or not be a friend in your life anymore. Sometimes closure isn't a conversation. Sometimes it's just acceptance of what it is. And obviously you're going to miss them. Obviously you're going to miss the friendship. You're going to miss the memories and all of the things you went through, even the versions of yourselves that you used to be. You're going to miss that. And that doesn't go away. But sometimes you have to recognize that's no longer a possibility. Like that's not who's going to be by your side for this next chapter. And that's okay. It can hurt like hell, but you can love someone and still not recognize who they are. Both can be true. I think the most important thing about growing and healing is giving yourself space, space for new friendships or for friendships to deepen or to be the person you are. Like you need space in that. And if your friendship started in a box, it's kind of hard to get out of that box and make space for both of you to grow, but it takes both of you to fully make space. And honestly, sometimes when you stop holding on to things that just don't fit anymore or things you've outgrown, you create room for what actually fits and things that are right for you. So if you're in that in between phase of I'm growing or, my friend is growing and your friendship feels off, but you don't know what to do, like just remember that you're allowed to evolve. They are allowed to evolve. You're both allowed to change and you're allowed to choose yourself, even if that's uncomfortable. And they're allowed to choose themselves too. So even though growth sometimes can be lonely because of this gap, sometimes you're meant to let go. And outgrowing people and friendships and relationships, that's not a failure on your part. It's not a failure on their part either. Maybe it's a sign you're just becoming who you're meant to be. And maybe they're not sitting next to you while you do it. If this episode resonated with you, I just invite you guys to sit with the question of what am I holding on to that I've already outgrown? And really be honest with yourself. Like, is it time to let go? Or do I just let the gap continue to grow? I want you to be honest with yourself. Even when it is hard, honesty is the most important thing. Be honest with yourself. How can you be honest in your friendships and be a supportive friend if you're not being honest even with yourself? But in order to be honest with yourself, you have to know what is your truth. And that takes time. Well, that was this week's episode on the In Between series. Next Friday, I will be talking to you guys about feeling stuck in life. Until then, an episode where you guys are telling me more of your stories and asking questions will come out next Tuesday. I hope that you take what you need, leave what you don't, and in the meantime, show up for yourself. You deserve to have someone show up for you, especially yourself. I love you guys. I will talk to you Later. Good luck out there, y'all. Bye.